Welcome to the deep dive. We take sources you're interested in and really pull out the core insights.
Yeah, find the good stuff.
Exactly. And today, this one's for you, exploring Bruce Lee's time at the University of Washington. We're looking past the martial arts icon for a sec.
Right, focusing on the early 60s, his student days in Seattle.
What shaped him intellectually? What forces were at play before the legend? Our sources give us a fascinating window.
It's a great scene to picture. UW in the early 60s, very traditional academic,
Hmm. Lots of intellectual buzz, I imagine.
definitely. And then, bam, in walks Bruce Lee, straight from Hong Kong, already packed with life experience.
It's that clash, isn't it? The quiet campus and this dynamic force arriving.
That contrast is what makes it so interesting, and the sources really bring that out.
Yeah, he wasn't your average freshman, that's for sure. Born in the U.S., San Francisco.
Right, but raised in Hong Kong, very chaotic, vibrant place.
Child actor, cha-cha champion.
Yeah.
And yeah, knew his way around a street fight, apparently.
Which is partly why his father sent him away, right, to Seattle.
Yeah, spring of '61, he enrolls at UW. Dad wanted him to get an education, maybe calm down a bit.
Initially as a drama major, interestingly enough.
Drama.
Huh.
Picture the physicality, but yeah, performance makes sense too.
Imagine him, though, this bundle of energy arriving on that very Pacific Northwest campus. Trees, water, quite different from Hong Kong.
Must have been a culture shock. But his interests shifted academically, didn't they? Pretty fast.
Oh, yeah. Drama didn't stick for long. He moved towards philosophy and psychology.
Okay, that sounds more like the Bruce Lee we think of. Getting into the big ideas.
Totally. He was reading Plato, Descartes, Kant, grappling with Western thought.
But also Eastern philosophy?
Absolutely. Deep dives into Taoism, Buddhism. You can really see the seeds of be like water starting to germinate there in his studies.
Oh, so it wasn't just something he picked up later. It was forming back then at UW.
It seems so. He was connecting these ideas from different traditions. He wasn't just like reading passively.
He was synthesizing.
Exactly. And connecting it all to psychology too, human behavior, motivation, how people work, how he worked.
Did his professors notice? I mean, this guy sounds intense.
They did. Sources mention professors like Dr. Paul Yip Man, no relation to his Wing Chun master, just an academic recognizing his intense curiosity, asking tough questions.
But he wasn't like a straight A student necessarily.
Reportedly a B average, solid, but, you know.
He had other things going on.
Definitely. Skipping class sometimes for martial arts practice or for Linda Emery.
Ah, Linda. Right. They met at UW.
Yep, 1963. She was drawn to his energy, his charisma.
There's that story about the one-inch punch.
In the cafeteria, can you imagine? What a way to introduce yourself.
Seriously. And they got married the next year, '64. So UW was huge for his personal life, too.
Enormous. And you can't separate any of this from the martial arts. He started teaching almost immediately.
On campus. In '61.
Yeah, teaching fellow students what he called Gung Fu back then, using whatever spaces he could find.
Like classrooms. Barrington Hall is mentioned.
Or maybe even just out on the quad, demonstrating moves.
And his teaching wasn't just physical drills. It was philosophical from the start.
Very much so. He was already blending the physical training with the ideas he was exploring in class. Big focus on practicality, moving beyond strict tradition.
It was about understanding, not just fighting.
That seems to be the core of it, even that early on.
And Jesse Glover was involved early, his first assistant.
That's right. Glover had a judo background. His accounts describe Lee as, well, incredibly intense, demanding.
But inspiring.
Oh, absolutely inspiring. Pushing boundaries, making people rethink movement potential. UW was his first real laboratory.
And culturally, this must have been eye-opening for people there.
Hugely. Chinese martial arts weren't widely known in the U.S. in the early 60s. He was basically an ambassador.
A cultural bridge, challenging stereotypes just by being there teaching.
And he had that charisma, that showmanship, breaking boards, blindfolded stuff.
Yeah, you can see why he'd become a bit of a campus celebrity.
Definitely stood out. Though it wasn't all smooth sailing. Some traditional martial artists were skeptical.
Because he was breaking the mold.
Probably. Departing from established forms, focusing on what worked for him, that ruffled some feathers.
Okay, let's talk about something else that comes up, the plagiarism question, regarding some early essays.
Yeah, things like A Moment of Understanding from '61, and maybe impacting later writings like The Tao of Gung Fu.
It's tricky. We have to think about academic standards back then, especially for freshmen, right?
Exactly. Citation practices, what was expected in an undergraduate paper. It wasn't necessarily the same as today.
So in that '61 essay, he talks about Yip Man, his teacher, and uses Taoist ideas.
Right. Maybe without the kind of formal footnotes we demand now. But is that intentional deception, or is it a young student exploring and integrating ideas he's excited about?
A learning process, maybe?
Possibly. And later, with the Tao of Gung Fu, you see him pulling from so many sources. Krishnamurti, martial arts classics, self-help stuff.
It feels more like intertextuality, like
Yeah.
weaving things together.
And he was pretty open about his influences, wasn't he? Telling students to read Sun Tzu or Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like someone trying to hide their sources.
No. So while there have been discussions online, looking at the actual early work and the context,
And definitions of plagiarism focusing on intent.
it seems more like a hungry mind absorbing everything, processing it, making it his own, less like deliberate academic dishonesty.
Okay. So besides studying and teaching, what else was he up to? Life as a student,
He was hustling, he had to pay for his education, took odd jobs.
like waiting tables,
Yeah, famously at Ruby Chow's restaurant. You can just picture him charming the customers.
maybe showing off a move or two.
Wouldn't surprise me. He also did performances like at the Seafair Festival in '61, sharing his skills beyond campus.
And socially, being one of few Asian students must have had its challenges.
Probably faced some prejudice, yeah. But accounts suggest he handled it with confidence. Humor, even.
He got involved with the Chinese Student Association, found community there.
Seems like it. And let's not forget his love for dancing, cha-cha.
Right. The cha-cha champion from Hong Kong. Still loved to dance.
Shows another side of him, not just the intense martial artist or philosopher.
So he was deeply immersed in UW life, but he didn't actually graduate.
Correct. He attended from '61 to '64,
Hmm.
got credits in drama, philosophy, but didn't finish the degree.
What leave?
A few big things pulling him away. The chance to pursue acting seriously in California that led to the Green Hornet role later.
Okay, the Cato opportunity. Big
Yeah,
role.
huge. Plus, he'd already opened his first proper Gung Fu school in Seattle in '63. His focus was shifting.
And he was married to Linda by 64.
And their son, Brandon, was born in '65, shortly after he left UW. Life was moving fast in a different direction.
So the path just diverged from pure academics.
Exactly. And it's worth clearing up. Sometimes you see claims online he got a degree in philosophy or psychology.
Yeah.
UW has no record of that. And Lee himself never claimed he graduated.
Got it. So attended, absorbed a lot, but didn't get the piece of paper.
But that time was absolutely crucial for him, foundational.
How so? What was the lasting impact?
Well, the philosophy, the psychology, it all fed directly into Jeet Kune Do. Adaptability, simplicity, efficiency. Those ideas were honed by his studies.
JKD wasn't created in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
It came out of that intellectual exploration at UW.
Very much so. And those Gung Fu classes on campus, they were the start. Many of his first students became instructors themselves.
Spreading his ideas outward.
And his relationship with Linda. That started at UW, became the bedrock of his family, and eventually the Bruce Lee Foundation.
So the university's connection is deep, even without a diploma.
Definitely. And UW acknowledges him now as a famous alumnus. His writings are in their archives. His story is part of the campus lore.
It really shows that education is more than just grades or degrees, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's about the passion, the curiosity.
And for you listening, someone who values getting to the heart of things quickly, Lee's story here is pretty relatable.
Yeah, he had big dreams, faced obstacles, but kept driving forward.
His UW time shows how that kind of focused period, even if it doesn't end conventionally, can be a massive springboard.
The curiosity, the hard work, the resilience. It's inspiring.
His time at UW, short as it was in academic terms, was this intense period of forging himself, blending mind and body.
Absolutely. It was where the intellectual side really caught up with the physical, you could say. It laid the groundwork for everything that followed.
He left UW not with a degree, but with the core of a philosophy that would change martial arts forever. That learning clearly went way beyond the classroom walls.
Yeah, it truly did.
So maybe a final thought for you. Think about your own past, those unexpected detours, those deep dives into subjects that grab you. How might they be shaping your journey, maybe in ways you don't even realize yet, even if it's not the straight traditional route?
That dynamic between what you formally study and what you're just passionately curious about, it's powerful stuff. Makes you think.